Well, Kevin Coffey joins me now. He's a travel safety and personal security expert, and Kevin is going to give us some idea of essentially what we should be doing right now, because the authorities say these attacks are only going to increase in frequencies in all likelihood. So we're going to find out exactly, some tips to stay safe. So Kevin, essentially, what should you do if you're heading over on a holiday, presumably a regular destination, not Syria or Yemen, Europe somewhere? What should you do before you even get on the plane?
It's a great question. It's some areas that a lot of folks don't even think about. Let's talk about three quick ones. One is that, what is your travel emergency plan? So all travelers, I don't care if you're on business or leisure, what are you thinking about that if you get involved even in a simple traffic accident, you become incapacitated, how is someone going to help you back home to help work through this, to help get your medical records and help transfer money in your accounts? And most folks don't think about that far in advance to build those. So come up with that. Number two is take a look at your insurance plans. Many people are just totally unaware that their personal medical insurance doesn't provide coverage overseas. So if they become harmed and sick, they a lot of times have to front the cash themselves. Even folks on Medicare, it doesn't cover for them. And even when you take a look at the other folks getting into these basic level entry insurance plans, they don't have coverage at all. So you could have to pay $20,000 to $30,000 if you're hurt seriously medically. The third thing I'd like to take a look at is your cell phone. Now, this is a very interesting thing. Your cell phone is, to many folks, as important as their passport, right? If you were to lose this, it becomes lost or stolen or damaged, you're without a country. You don't have any way to connect back up home.
And it was interesting, we look at the video from Thursday, a lot of cell phones just
cell phones all over.
Everywhere.
Same thing happened in Orlando Airport when they did that evacuation. Right. So I used to ask folks, what is your cell phone replacement plan? Not about how much it's going to cost, but if you had to buy a new one, do you have all the passwords accessible so you can start downloading all your contacts? So every traveler needs to have an emergency file that they put in the cloud that can go into any computer and have all their passwords and emergency contacts.
Okay, so once you get there, what's the basic sort of advice here? What do you need to do?
So a couple things. Let's take a look at what's just happened here today or yesterday in Barcelona. In law enforcement, we call it situational awareness, and I try to teach this in my courses all the time. So when you're walking down the street, you kind of need to really pay attention to your surroundings, and it gets very hard, like we talked about. You're in beautiful locations.
That's the thing.
Right?
You're meant to relax and chill out.
Absolutely.
You want to be uptight, worrying about, is there a truck coming?
But you do have to. It's not very difficult if you just pay attention to a lot of the sounds, and you're listening for vehicles that are speeding by, the gunning of engines. You're listening to any type of collision, so you can start taking a couple seconds to see where that's coming from. That can give you those couple seconds to take a reaction. Always walk against traffic so you can see vehicles coming towards you, and never walk in the middle of these big pedestrian walkways. Those are the people that are always most vulnerable, where these vehicles can go through. When you walk on the fringes...
Because you've got the furthest to go to get out of the way.
Yes.
Right.
And you walk on the fringes, so if a vehicle is coming, you can duck into these doorways, and you can get out of the way quickly. The other mistake that a lot of people have seen, and we've watched this, and I do this training for the folks when they go overseas, is that when these events have happened, look back at a lot of these videos. You see a lot of the folks, once the vehicle, the terrorist, and the folks that have done these terrorist acts have come to a conclusion, the people start going back to the vehicle. Right. This just happened in Charlottesville. You saw those folks went right after. What happened? The vehicles went in reverse. It's still an active situation. It's still hot. You do not want to approach these situations. You want to get away from them as quickly as possible and start making your way out of it.
Okay. What about parents who, have children studying abroad? Because that's a whole different story, right? Because, they're going to have situational awareness, but they're not looking for a terrorist attack.
Absolutely, absolutely. When you look at these study abroad programs, it's very interesting. Some colleges and universities are very proactive and provide more in-depth training on emergency procedures and how to be proactive, and others don't want to address it at all. It's kind of, they don't want to scare people. Yeah. There's that fine line. It's on how it's delivered. So parents need to get involved in this process and ask the institutions where they send their students, even high schools, right? Our son went to Spain 2 years ago on a high school program. Nobody provided any of this information to him. I gave him a very in-depth, this is what I do at corporations. But unless parents be more proactive to say, let's discuss some of these things, their children could be vulnerable. Because
quite often, whether it's vacation or kids studying abroad, you're in a country, it's a foreign language, you may not have the skills, it's a completely different foreign environment, which is why we go there, because it's something new and different. But there has to, there has to be a moment of familiarization with all of these different aspects, knowing what the emergency phone number is,
Right.
knowing maybe how to contact the police, knowing the protocols, how these things work, because every country is different, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where, the program that I do, it's a 3-hour presentation just on street smart survival skills.
Yeah.
I mean, like here's a simple one. If you had your cell phone, if this was yours, I bet you if I found it, let me see your phone for a second. Okay, so if your phone, if you dropped this,
Right.
and I picked it up off the street and the battery was dead, how would I return it to you?
Oh, I have no idea. Charge it up, maybe.
Okay, so if you found my phone and it was dead, how would you return it to
Right.
me?
There we are. Okay, it's got the
If
details on
found,
the back.
remove the
Right.
case, and you remove it, and it has all the information on how to
Right.
return it. So simple things like this, this is Street Smarts 101.
Yeah.
A lot of these items, you want to get it back to you, so there's a lot of proactive things you can do. You just got to spend the time to learn it,
Yeah.
understand it, and you can reduce your chances greatly on these traveler mishaps.
Okay, and that's a sad state of the world right now, unfortunately.
it is.
Okay, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.